What to play with black against 1e4? That is the question today, where we will look at a second part of the GM Talks opening repertoire for black, featuring the Caro-Kann defense. We're gonna look into the topical main line where white castle queenside, and that's sharp stuff because black always castle or almost always castle short in this e takes f6 Caro-Kann. So let's get into it. We will have a lot of discussions about the Caro-Kann along the way. So enjoy the ride. You're gonna learn a lot of opening theory today. Let's go. We're gonna use a blitz game for our featured game. It's from the title Tuesday in the 1st of February, Visakh versus Tari, and Tari is one of the black heroes in this opening, so c6. By the way, a lot of lines due to white being a bit frustrated against the Caro-Kann, he started to experiment with something like knight here, and d3 and knight here, knight f3 and so on. And actually, even though I call this the main line, maybe the main line is actually the advanced variation. And we have not decided yet for black if we're going to play c5 or bishop f5. Both have merits, and both are very interesting, very difficult position to play, where you play for all three results. And please, if you have an opinion about this, you can leave it in the show notes, or in the comments, I mean. You don't write the show notes, I do. Anyway, this is what we still call the main line of the Caro-Kann. And as we play this knight move, and I remember Larsen said this was the worst line for black in the Caro-Kann, but then he played it himself, which is rather interesting. And this we have had other videos where white castle short into this side in this opening, but this time we will look where the black white king goes the other way and what happens then. The interesting feature of the position is, of course, that black has this double pawn on f6. Is it strong? Is it weak? You could say that in a pawn ending, it's probably not so good. In the middle game, it might actually give the king a lot of sort of safeguarding that you don't normally see. And that's also why maybe you can afford to lose one pawn, because you still have three defending your king. So you have a very safe king, which can have some interesting strategical concept. c3 is the main line for black. For white, we see that Hector played bishop e3 against me, and this is the normal position for the bishop. Put it here, and queen c2, setting up a battery down here. And what to do about that? If you play h6, you weaken the white squares, and maybe you're not so happy about that. If you play d6, you open up for a raid with the h pawn. So what to do? Well, you give a check first, and then you play h5, and that is sort of the reason why this e takes f6 has gotten so popular, that it looks so crazy to put your pawn forward. But first of all, like we said, you still have three pawns in your kingside position, and this h pawn actually helps preventing white from opening lines on the queen's king side, because it's not so easy to if for instance he goes something, you say, okay, I'm going to play something like this, then you'll simply go past it, and there's no open lines. So it's not so easy to actually open lines on the king side, king side. Yes, bishop e3, and that sort of signals that white has a plan to castle queen side. Knight d7, very natural, castle. And here we reached a major inflection point in this opening, because in Shandov's books, for instance, he recommended what would be considered the main line, knight here, and then play the bishop out, and you'll have a very solid position, but of course the knight helps the king, and it's the sort of the safe way to play it. But what about if you want to say, okay, this guy down here, he's not that safe. He's not really safe. So maybe I can use this knight. I don't need to defend my king. My king is pretty safe. So I'm going to use this knight for attacking instead, and that's the other line. So so you can look into these both, but I like this b5. It's also been played by Carlsen, even though he lost against the big Dubov. B5. And the only problem with b5, in my opinion, is if white goes d5. So let's start with this strategy. By the way, when you play b5, the plan is very simple. You want to go knight here. You want to put bishop here. By the way, this bishop here is not so important. Because you have all these guys here defending the black squares, so you can actually just exchange it for the bishop or the knight or whatever. You don't really need it. You're just gonna play on the white squares. And if you look at white's position here, you see that if there is coming something here, it will be very difficult not to make more weaknesses or attacking points, and this pawn can also come running down the a file, which we're going to see in this game where black get a great attack. But the big question when you play b5 is you close your eyes and say, okay, please let me play this move next. I just want my knight here and my bishop here, and then I'm going to be fine. And white goes d5, and this is clearly the critical line, just highlighting that these are quite weak, opening this square for the knight or the bishop and so on. But of course black will play c5, and if white does not take the pawn, then he's gonna get busted on the queen side. Black has a strong attack in the making. You have to be pretty careful here. So by the way, you're not afraid of anything on the king side. Nothing bad will happen yet, for sure. So he has to take. So white won a pawn, and black is left with an isolated pawn here and so on. But he's also very solid on the king side. This bishop is not so easy to miss. So here you can go something like rook here, attacking the bishop, and maybe a6 makes sense, attacking the bishop again. And in this position, I think Carlsen played this move, and also someone played this move, but the computer and I suggest this move. Taking over more white squares and getting ready to one day put a bishop on f5 with really strong effect here. Also notice that something like this can come easily. There's also this square that is pretty nice. These pieces are very clumsy, so you're a pawn down, and after something like this, here comes and this is opening preparation, and the computer get pretty excited after some time that black is absolutely fine here. Sacrificing exchange, so and white have to take, and after this white is up with one exchange and one pawn. That is nominally 3 pawns, but actually black has really good compensation here, and this position is very difficult to play for white. The rooks will one day be strong, but is white going to survive the middle game where all black's pieces have a major role to play? At the moment, you're maybe threatening something like this could be a problem. Maybe you've been threatening to take this one and play rook here, and white will have problems defending the bishop, and at the same time after something. For instance, let's say you go something like this, then maybe this move, something like and here, oops, and already it's clear that black is much better. So I think the computer's main move is rook d2, but after knight d4, black has excellent compensation, and I think I would you have a very eternal attack, which is, by the way, a subject we're gonna go into in the next video. So look forward to that, and remember to like and subscribe. So I think this line is good for black, and of course there are other ways for white to play, but after d5, c5 here, black has compensation for sure. And it's very difficult to play in a real game for white, because you're defending and you're sort of ahead on material, but you also have bad squares, bad pieces, and black has good chances to launch a strong attack. In this blitz game, Visakh played king b1, and black was allowed to play knight here. And you can just feel that there are some problems on the white squares. Also, that this guy is probably coming. Knight f4 is probably not the best move. And here comes a very important move. A very important move. Take the knight. Just get rid of it. And because this bishop often in this situation will find itself completely out of a job. It has nothing to do. There is nowhere it can go where it will do anything except maybe defend. And here, of course, bishop e6. We can already see this is a problem. We also see that this knight has nice range of options here. And after this, a5, the attack is coming. Rook here, queen d5. Already black is, and after this move here, white is more or less busted. This is as you can just see it, that this is bad for white. After b4 here, black played knight c4. It's like a little bit, the threat is stronger than the execution. The knight can jump to this square, can jump to this square, and he can even jump to this square. So why not play something like a3 here, which is a move I like. And it's clear that black is much better in this position. He played here. It's possible. It was a blitz game. It's not easy to find the right way, but we know that the bishop here against the knight here is usually good for the bishop. It defends all the important squares that the knight can attack. And a3, and the plan is very simple. Knight b2, and queen takes a2. But the queen is kicked back. And white starts to get ready to maybe do something on the king side. Knight bd2, knight b2, and here white plays. We see that black is in some sort of white is in some sort of trouble on a2, but he has this tactical justification, and already it's a little bit of a mess, because he gets a check here, and white managed to save himself. c4 is also a strong move, and check, and we have a perpetual check. So very interesting, intense blitz game. Of course, the white and black can play much better, but it is interesting to note that there is nothing here, and they take a draw here. White cannot run, of course. If he goes here, then this is a disaster. So this was a nice little intense game, and I think I could recommend b5 for black. Of course, if you don't like it, you can just go knight f8. Black is scoring well here. You can find the theory in Shandor's book, but I think b5 is a much more interesting move. And if this d5, if black does have good compensation here, as it seems he does, then this is fine for black. And by the way, fun to play. which is also a big feature that you sort of get more excited and want to look into it and say, oh, if I can just get this in a game. Anyway, this was GM Talks opening repertoire line with the Caro-Kann for black, a counter-attacking opening with a solid reputation. Thank you for watching.